Okay, continue.
Okay. So,
Wait, sorry. Sorry. Is there anybody recording this? Can you please record this? Is it possible to record? Can anyone record this?
It's possible.
Can someone record this?
It says to
Can just
request from the host.
because okay, just record it because we want to make a proof that we are doing this online, not the other types of learning. Okay, continue.
okay. So people use a language to signal their membership of particular groups and to construct different aspects of the social identity. And it also turns out that social status, gender, age, ethnicity, and social networks are also important dimensions of our identity in many communities. So in this presentation, we'll illustrate the way people use language to signal and enact such affiliations. So from the first example in the book, you can turn to page 139. So from example 1, telephone rings. Pat, hello. Caller, hello is Mark there. Pat, yes, just hold on a minute. So Pat said to Mark, there's a rather well-educated young lady from Scotland on the phone for you. So when we answer the telephone, we can make guesses based on the on various characteristics of the speaker, whether it's a child or an adult, if it's a male or a female, and if the person on the phone has the regional accent, then we can, so the person's regional accent will be evident even from a short utterance. And we can also possibly make some reasonable guess about the person's socio-economic or educational background, just what Pat did. That's what Pat said to Mark. So maybe the caller has a Scottish accent, and he's speaking in a very well-educated manner for Pat to make accurate guesses about the caller to Mark.
But is the guess accurate? But is the guess accurate or not? Because according to Pat,
yes, it is accurate.
Well-educated young lady from Scotland on the phone. Is she well-educated? Is it mentioned there?
Yes. It's not mentioned. It's not mentioned. It's not mentioned there. But we think it is accurate. Because just look at the way the grammatical patterns, the pronunciation, and so on.
Okay.
Hello?
All right, continue. Yeah, continue.
Okay, so moving on. So there's no two people speak exactly the same. So there are a variety of sources of variation in speech forms that we use. So some features of speech, however, are shared by groups and become important because they differentiate one group from another. Just as different language often serve a unifying and also a separating function for the speakers, so do speech characteristics within languages. So in this example, the pronunciation, grammar, and vocabulary of Scottish speakers of English are all quite distinct or different from those people who are living in England. For example, so for other English speakers, they would use "I won't do it," but for Scottish people, they'll use "I'll not do it." So second, sometime after one, but Scottish people would say "meet you at the back of one." He lives outside Edinburgh. He lives out with Edinburgh. So they use. So there are a variety of. So there are differences in pronunciation, grammar, and vocabulary that differentiates Scottish people from other persons.
Okay, so this is what we call what? What is the difference here? What do we call this difference?
Regional variation. Yeah, regional variation. Regional variation.
Different, or it's a dialect, right?
Yeah.
It's a dialect.
Mm-hmm.
It's a dialect. The Scottish people, when they are speaking English, they have their own dialects. They are speaking English,
Yes.
but dialect.
Yep.
Okay. Continue.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. So moving on. So, so many other English speakers use the same vowel in the three words. The three words are bag, map, and bad. But the workers in Belfast, so Belfast is a capital in Northern Ireland. So the workers there would pronounce bag as beg, map as ma, bad as bod. So those are the difference. So speech, so that those might sound odd to English people. Speech also provides social information. Speech also
Yes.
provides social information.
Mm.
So dropping the initial H in house and heaven, and it turned to and it became house and heaven. So so dropping the initial H in words like house and heaven often indicates a lower socioeconomic background in English.
Mm.
And the same applies to the difference in grammatical patterns. So they don't know nothing than kids. The kids don't know anything. I done it last week. I did it last week. So group affiliations and social identities can be identified by the speech forms that we use.
Mm.
Okay. So moving on. So we're going to elaborate more on regional variation.
Mm.
So regional variation takes time to develop, and it falls under three categories: international variation, intranational, intracontinental variations, and the last one is continental variation. In other words, dialect traits. So,
Okay.
so the first is international variation. Regional, that different parts of the world
Yes.
use or it sounds different to the ears of other English speakers. So okay, moving on. Okay, the example. Okay, okay. So to New Zealand decided that war days. He found the address, walked up the path, and knocked on the door. "Good day," said the young man who opened the door. "What can I do for you?" "I've called to see my old mate, Don Stone," said the visitor. "Oh, he's dead now, mate," said the young man. The visitor was about to express Don Stone himself. The young man had said, "Here's dead now, mate," and as his father came in the gate. So what happens here is that to British ears, how New Zealanders pronounce words sounds different
Okay.
to the ears of British people. So as what happened in the example earlier, so but to British ears, it sounds sounds like dad, which is dead, yeah, and bad sounds like bed, six sounds like sucks. So those are the differences. It's the same language, but it differs from
Pronunciation. The
ears of other English.
pronunciation.
The pronunciation. So,
When the pronunciation is different, the meaning could be different to them. But it's actually like, for example, if the
yeah,
people in New Zealand they say the word dad as date, something like that, it means that they are referring to the father, not the death of someone. So the pronunciation makes a difference in meaning
yeah,
if
yeah.
you are familiar with the way that they pronounce the word itself. Okay. You
Yep.
understand?
So other
Okay.
examples to make yes, I understand. So moving on, there are also other examples to make it clearer. Which Australians, Americans, and New Zealanders say sounds like pens, which is two different things. And pens sounds like pants to British people.
Hmm.
So those are in terms of pronunciation, the difference in pronunciation according to the region. So okay, moving on is wait, doctor. Okay. So another this is between American or US English and British English. So American says God, but with British is it sounds like God, which is completely two different things, the meaning. And ladder in American sounds like ladder in British.
No, it's like this.
To British people.
Wait. It's like this. Okay, when the American says God, God. Okay,
Yeah.
the British
It sounds
pronounce God. The British pronounce God as God. Do you understand?
yeah. Yep.
So the British will say God, but it means the God. It means the God.
Yeah.
And the British,
Yeah.
the British will say letter. Okay, it's letter. It's actually leather. It's actually leather. But according to
Yeah.
the British, it's not. It's not the leather. It's later. Or is it the other way around? So it
Yeah.
means that the pronunciation makes it difficult to understand between both American and British English. Do you get it?
And British English. Yeah. Yes.
That's
Yes.
for the pronunciation. Have you looked at example 3 on page 141?
Yes.
Do you
Yeah. Yes, doctor.
do you include that in your slide? Page
Yeah.
141 example.
Yes. Yeah. We did.
You explain that. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Can we? I'll move on. I'm moving on. So we move on to the vocabulary or the word choice. So the word choice. Uh, so there are also vocabulary differences in the varieties spoken in different regions. So the vocabulary or word choice that they use is also different according to their regions. So different choice of words that are used in different parts of the world can be an indicator for a listener to guess where you are from. So to the British people, they use the term single parents to represent a woman or man who are raising a family or a child without the existence of the other partner. So, but for Australians, they don't use single; they use sole parents, and to New Zealanders, they use solo parents. But it means the same. They just use a different word choice. Okay, that's for the vocabulary. And other examples are also to make it clearer, South Africans and British Africans, they refer the traffic light to robot. They use robot to refer to the traffic light. So British they use traffic light to refer to the traffic light. So and there's also difference between British and New Zealand. Wellies are Wellington boots, but to New Zealand they use gum boots. They are different. They are same thing, but different usage of word vocabulary.
Yeah.
And to tops. So tops, in New Zealand, tops refers to different types of clothes in different places. But in Britain, it refers to what you might wear to a formal dinner or to a special occasion.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a different and it has a different meaning
Okay.
to both of the countries there. Okay.
Okay.
For grammar, the grammar is also different. So the different grammatical structure used by different speakers from different parts of the world is also an indicator of where you are from. For example, in the example 3, do you have a match? Have you got a cigarette? She has gotten used to the noise. She's got used to the noise. He dove in head first. He dived in head first. Did you eat yet? Have you eaten yet? So, okay.
So you can see that A and B is the same actually, but the usage of the grammar and also vocabulary is a bit different. Instead of saying you know, do you have a match? Have you got a cigarette? They
Yeah.
say match as cigarette, and the
Yeah.
structure of the sentence is also different.
Yes.
And then the word dove and dive.
Yeah.
Dove and dive is actually a past tense. Some
Yeah.
will use ed, some change
Something.
completely.
Yes.
Okay. And when they ask question, did you eat yet or have you eaten yet? Is the same
Yeah.
question, but the
But it's
structure is
different.
it's not the same. Okay.
Yes.
Right.
So just like Dr. has explained, so this what Dr. has explained, so we put it in brackets. So US English, do you have written? Have you got gotten, got, dove, dive, did you eat, have you eaten? So those are so the grammar that they use are they mean the same but they use completely different grammatical structure.
Yeah. Mm.
So, in note that those differences does not only happen in the English language, but also to other languages which are used in different parts of the world too. For example,
Yeah.
speakers of Spanish can hear differences of pronunciation, vocabulary, and grammar in Spanish spoken in Mexico, Spain, Argentina, and Paraguay. And
Yes.
also native speakers of French can also distinguish the French used in Montreal from Parisian and Haitian French. So
Okay.
this also happens in other languages too. So for the grammar, there are differences for the differences in vocabulary. For example, the work, the same word, but in different the different word choice or vocabulary that you use. In Montreal, it means doctor, pardon me if I pronounce it incorrectly.
Okay.
So in Montreal, they use yo or yoke, or in Parisian and they use travail. Uh,
Mm.
so for beggar, in Quebec they use chateau, but in France they use mendiant.
Mm.
So go to the cinema. For
Mm.
the Canadians they use aller voir on film, but in Parisian they use aller au cinema. So they mean the same, but they use a very different, completely different word choice or vocabulary
Okay.
in their own native language. So
Yeah.
also there are also very distinct differences in what it means in masculine in France and what it means for feminine in Canada. For appetite or appetite, it means masculine in France, but it means feminine in Canada. In midi or midday, it means masculine in France, but it means feminine in Canada. So uh, both are French language in both countries, but they use different vocabulary and it's also different meaning. So
Mm. Okay.
okay, so
So you understand this is the regional variation. Okay.
yeah,
This
yes,
is international. International varieties, it means
international,
that it differs between each country. For instance, America
yeah,
and UK. With
UK,
different countries, international.
yes,
Okay.
yeah,
Now we go to
intranational.
next.
Intranational. So intra here means
Inter
within a country or continent.
within
So it's inside.
country or continent itself.
Yeah.
Different countries.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, continue.
Okay, continue. Next. Okay. So so for intranational,
Mm.
so so it means so it's within. So it's not. We're not just talking about dialect differences, but we're talking about dialect differences within a country. So there are different states and regions. So in each state, they also happen to use. They have different dialects that are used that has been used there. So for example, for Rob, this feels completely disgusted. Ellen, I might could get it changed. Rob, you couldn't do nothing of the sort. It needs dumped. So
Mm.
what happens here is it's a conversation between two Geordies. So Geordies are what they call people from Tyneside in England.
Mm.
England. So the intonation patterns and the way English is pronounced is quite distinctive in Tennessee.
Mm.
So next.
Okay.
So that's in the UK. So the in the huh?
Mm.
Right? She said.
Yeah,
So in the USA, so the dialectologists divided the USA in three divisions, which is northern, midland, and southern. For example, within the midland area, the Boston dialect differs from New York, and within New York, and in New York, the people from Brooklyn also uses different dialect. Okay, that's in the US. And this also happens the closest to us in Malaysia, in which Selangor, in which the word keluar, Selangor and KL uses keluar, but Perak uses keluar. Perlis, Kedah and Penang use keluar, but Kelantan, Terengganu uses tubik. It means the same. It means the same. They just use a completely different word
Okay.
according to the region, according to the area in one country.
Okay.
So, okay, in the UK, a clear example, in the UK, the Cockney differs from Scouse and from Geordie. Geordie, the earlier example. So the Cockney is distinguished with its glottal stop instead of T in words like butter, butter or bottle. So the Cockney, the people from Cockney will use this butter or bottle. They apply glottal stop in those words.
Yeah.
For example, also example from our context is the Terengganuans omits the R in almost every word and tends to replace it with W. So rumah became rumah, orang became oang. So it's the same. It's the same example. In the eastern states of the US, other names for dragonfly are darning needle, mosquito hawk, spindle, snake feather, and many more. Same goes to for the word makan. The Kelantanese say make, and the Terengganuan say makang. So it's a different. It's the same word but different dialect.
Okay. Okay.
Okay. So yes. So moving on to cross-continental variations. In other words, dialect chains. So for this one. So cross-continental variation or dialect chains is a particular language used by people living in nearby towns or villages. So there's a chain or continuation of language from one village to the next. Although it won't be completely the same language, there are similarities that is understandable to the ears of the speakers. So, for example, in example 5, so I will read it out. Example 5, Miriam learned French and Italian at university and was a fluent speaker of both. As part of her course, she was required to study for 3 months in Paris and 3 months in Rome. Her time in Paris went well, and she decided to take a holiday on her way to Rome, traveling across France and Italy. She was keen to hear the varieties of French and Italian spoken in provincial towns. She stayed in cheap pensions or the French bed and breakfast places, and she made a special effort to talk to the local people rather than tourists.
Okay.
Her parents had French of Dijon and Lyon. In Paris, she found the French more difficult to follow. So I don't have to read. Okay. So near the border between France and Italy. Oh, continue. Okay. So dialect chains means dialect chains are very common across the whole of Europe. One chain links all dialects of German, Dutch, and Flemish from Switzerland through Austria and Germany to the Netherlands and Belgium. One link dialects of Portuguese for the Scandinavian countries. A Scandinavian chain links between Norwegian, Swedish, and Danish. So those are European countries, but they have this one language or dialect that can link all those countries in Europe. So defining the contrast between German and Dutch or Swedish and Norwegian using only linguistic features can be difficult. This is because the linguistic features overlap and usage in one area emerges to another. So in this case, therefore, we must look to the social and political functions of the language as well as its linguistic features. So,
Okay. Wait. Can you give example of this situation happening in Malaysia, in our border side of maybe in Kelantan border, do you have this dialect chain?
Um, yeah. So in Kelantan, we have the Siam Patani, and also Kelantan. In Kelantan. Siam in Kelantan. So sometimes they use different words. Yeah. But refer to the same meaning.
Ah.
Can you hear me?
Yeah. Can you give example?
Okay. For example, Kelantan in Patani, okay, and also Kelantan in Kelantan. The Kelantanese in Kelantan, the dialect. Okay, sometimes they use different words to refer to the same meaning. But sorry, I don't know which word. Yeah, but something like that. Is it correct, Doctor?
It means that in the border, okay, these people sometimes they can mix between their Patani language and also the Kelantanese dialect, right? It means no Patani
Yes.
now, like although they are from Thailand, now that they are speaking like Kelantanese, right? They could mix with their
Yeah.
own Thailand language as well. So it means that near the border, you cannot listen to only one dialect or only one language being spoken. There could be a mix of two languages there. Serious. This is what it meant by dialect chains. It means that there could be mix of dialects or languages in that particular border. Do you understand?
Yes.
Right. Okay, continue.
So moving on. Okay. So moving on to example 6. Ming is an elderly woman who lives with her son in a rural village near the town of Yingde in Guangdong province in southern China. The family grows vegetables for the local market. Ming speaks only her provincial dialect of Chinese, Cantonese. Last summer, Gong, an official from Beijing in the north, visited her village to check on the level of rice and ginger production. Gong also speaks Chinese, but his dialect was Mandarin or Putonghua. Ming could not understand a single word Gong said. So this I couldn't really understand this part. So I'll try my best to explain. So in this context, so language is a collection of dialects that are linguistically similar, used by different social groups who choose to say that they are speakers of one language to unite, to unite, and represent them to other groups. That's why Ming couldn't understand Gong's Chinese, which is Mandarin or Putonghua, because she speaks Cantonese.
Yeah.
So this definition is a socio-linguistic rather than a linguistic one. So it includes all the linguistically very different Chinese dialects which the Chinese define as one language, while separating the languages of Scandinavia, which are linguistically very similar but politically quite distinct varieties.
Okay,
So
for
this
this
is more
example,
to social or political functions more than
yeah,
language.
for this example 6 is actually, if the
Yes.
Chinese person, they are using their dialect, province dialect, instead of, for example, they are using their province dialect. So they actually want to unite and represent them to the other groups. It means that they are proud of their group, so that's why
Yeah.
they still maintain to use Cantonese, to use Teochew and Hokkha. It means that they want to maintain their group membership. I mean, they are so proud of their group, so that they just maintain their own
Identity.
dialect there.
Yes.
Their identity. Okay, okay, continue.
Continue. So we move on to social variations, which is RP or received pronunciation. For example,
Okay, wait. Kejap. Okay, just now we are looking at regional variations, right? It means that
yes,
it's actually where you stay just now, regional. Okay, what is the
yeah.
difference between regional and social variations?
Social refers to the Social class,
social, the society, and
Yeah,
regional
yeah.
refers to the region.
Yeah, so the region, so different the region is social. The social depends on the refers to the social class or the people living
Yeah.
social class. Yeah, and so
Okay,
the
region refers to where you are staying.
yes,
Okay, but social refers to your socio-economic factor.
yes,
Your social
class.
ladder. It means that whether you are you are upper, middle, or lower class. Okay.
Okay. Continue. So yeah, example 6. Example next. Example 7 in page 147. So Diana, have you heard? Jonathan's engaged to that Northern girl from Cumbria. She may be Northern, but I assure you she is very acceptable. Father is a lord and a rich one at that. She has had the best education money can buy. Those traces of Northern accent are fashionable these days, my dear. So, so racial pronunciation means that it's received at the royal court, or and it's spoken by only the upper classes in the UK. So, so but by the early 20th century, a person who spoke with a regional accent was most unlikely to belong to the upper class. So upper class people had an upper class education where they learned to speak this RP or received pronunciation. So RP is the accent of the best educated and the most prestigious members of the English society. It is a social accent because it conceals a speaker's regional origins. That's why received pronunciation is considered a social accent. Okay, so this the figure 6.2 is the trapezium or social and regional accent variation. So the lowest socioeconomic level,
Okay, continue.
the lowest socioeconomic level on the trapezium, they use the most linguistic variation. But if you go further up the social ladder, the amount of variation reduces, where RP is used by less than 5% of the British population. So this results
Wait.
to
Wait, can you show the mouse in the figure 6.2?
yeah, that one.
Can you
This
show
one.
can you show it using the mouse? Okay, to
Yeah.
show
Yes.
that lowest
So
socio-economy
yeah.
means the most linguistic variation. It means
Yes.
that if you are from the lowest socio-economy, there will be a lot of variation. But if you are
Yes.
at the pinnacle, at the top,
Yeah. You will
there are
use
less than
only
5%
yeah.
variation only.
Language, yeah.
Okay, continue.
So it means that working class people or middle class people, they will use there are many different pronunciations of the word grass. Grass. Meanwhile, so when you go up to the further up of the museum, the upper class people use only pronounces the word grass as grass. So that only one word. So the there's a reduction of
Variation.
word.
Okay, wait. Go back.
Yes.
So if you look at the figure 3.2 just now, if you go further up, the variation is very small. But if you go further
Yes.
down to the lower group, there's a lot of variation. Do you understand? Meaning
Yes.
variation, there are so many differences in pronunciation.
Yes.
Right. Okay, continue.
So, however, things have changed. There are more than just one accent associated with the highest social group. So, these days, Scots, Irish, and Welsh they also have upper classes people living there, but they don't use RP.
Okay.
So, so these days, estuary English, which was developed in the 1990s along the Thames estuary, which is located in England. And now estuary English is considered as a new RP. So the RP is considered old-fashioned now.
What
So
what is estuary English? Did they mention? They mentioned right in the book.
yeah, it's mentioned in the book. Yeah.
What page?
What is this? So 148. What is estuary
148.
English?
Everyone look at page 148 in your book. Estuary English. So now they are replacing the RP. So what is ester English? What kind of English is ester English? Where is it in page 148? Which
In the
paragraph?
last paragraph.
Page 148.
Yes, in the last paragraph.
148. Okay, let's
Yes.
see. Are you sure 148?
Yes,
Yes.
it's 148. It's
Oh,
in
this for
yeah.
social dialect. Okay.
Yeah.
So this is actually they want to level. Okay, leveling involves the
Leveling.
and the accent dialect and the rapid spread of so-called estuary English has certainly reduced regional variation in large area of the south of England. It shares many linguistic features with Cockney, another variety which delineates between the region and the social group, but speakers of estuary English don't usually drop their H's, H, or use f at the beginning of the word thing. So they don't say thing, or they don't drop the H.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did not mention history. Okay, it's actually spoken by the young Londoners.
Yes.
The young Londoners who live in London. Okay, they are now not using RP anymore. They are using
Yes. Estuary English.
Okay, all right. Continue. Okay, now we go to social dialect.
Okay, now we move on to social dialects. Okay. So first, what is dialects? Okay, dialects refers to linguistic varieties which are distinguishable by first vocabulary, grammar, and also pronunciation. So different social, different regional, different groups, they speak differently. Just like RP is social accent, standard English is considered social dialect. So standard English is a dialect used by well-educated speakers throughout the world. So it is also a variety used in national news broadcast and also used as medium of instruction in English school. Okay. Next. Okay. So we move on to the next subtopic. Okay, standard English. Okay. This is the example. Okay. I've not watched the dishes yet today. I haven't watched the dishes yet today. So these two have different grammatical features. Okay, and this is figure 6.5. Okay, just like I said just now, the regional variation. Okay, there's quite broad range. Okay, and look at the flat top of the trapezium. So it standard English is more accommodating than RP, and it allows for some variation within its boundaries, and this is represented by the flat top of the trapezium. That's why the trapezium has quite short range, small range at the flat top of the trapezium. So yes, the flat top of the trapezium symbolizes broader range of variants. So alternative linguistic forms which qualify as part of the standard dialect of English in any country. 15% of English people regularly use standard British English. So that's the reason why a limited amount of grammatical variation is acceptable. So a speaker of standard English might produce either of the sentences in example 8.
Wait, can you
Sorry?
Is variation, not variation.
Okay, variation. Okay, sorry. Variation. Okay, move on. Okay, so standard English is spoken with many different dialects. For example, US standard English is not the same as South African standard English, and also Australian standard English. And linguistic forms that are not part of the standard English is regarded as non-standard. Non-standard dialect, this non-standard dialect are always being compared to the standard dialect. So non-standard, however, non-standard term give negative connotation. It related to less prestigious classes. However, nothing is regarded as bad or inferior in linguistics. So instead of using non-standard, sociolinguists use term vernacular rather than non-standard to avoid this negative implication. So what is vernacular? Vernacular is a variety of meanings which has something in common. So vernacular dialect features are not standard language features, it is non-standard language features. Okay, and the forms tend to be learned at home and used in casual context. It lacks of public or overt prestige, although they are valued by their users, especially as means of expressing solidarity and affective meanings. Okay, in a Malaysian context, for example, we have the formal bahasa Melayu and also informal bahasa Melayu. Just like when we are at home, we don't use the baku one. Okay, we don't use adakah kamu sudah makan? No, we use dah makan ke? Something like that. Okay, so when we use dah makan ke, we use vernacular dialect. Okay, so this is the conclusion. Okay, the way people speak is characterized by pattern variation. So pattern, this pattern variation, sorry. Okay, pattern indicate the social factors which significant in a society. So this pattern is the one that indicate the social factors which significant in a society. So hold on, that's only the conclusion for standard English. Okay, next we move on to custom dialects.
Cast
Yes.
dialect. Cast dialect.
Okay, cast
In
dialect.
Malay,
Cast dialect. Caste. Okay. So how people in caste being grouped? Okay, so people can be grouped together on the basis of similar social and economic factors. So the people's languages reflect their social grouping when they use different social dialect. For example, India and also Indonesia. Okay.
Yeah.
So the caste dialect. Okay. The caste dialect is determined by birth and also when you are in that certain caste, okay, caste, strict social rules govern the kind of behavior appropriate to each group. So meaning that people in that particular caste, okay, they need to behave like the way they are expected to behave. So a person's dialect is an also indication of their background. Okay, next, this is the example of India's caste system.
Wait.
Okay.
Can you refer which page are you referring to? What page? What page are you referring to?
Page
150, doctor.
150. Okay.
yes.
Okay, continue.
Okay. Okay. So this is the example of India caste system. Okay. For example, okay, Brahmins Kannada language for milk is halu. Non-Brahmin dialect say alu. Brahmins Tamil language for sleep is tungu, and non-Brahmin dialects use the word orangu. In Tulu, the Brahmin dialect makes gender, number, and person distinctions in negative tenses of the verb, which are not made in non-Brahmin dialects, which are made only for the Brahmin dialects. Okay. So
Brahmin
this is the
is from
example
the
9.
highest
Okay.
level.
Already.
Okay.
Yes, the highest level at the top one. Okay. Example 9. Okay. An Indonesian student at a British university was trying to explain to her English friends the complications. Friend, the complications of social dialect in Java and the ways in which Javanese speakers signal their social background. It is much harder than in English, she said. It is not just a matter of saying sofa instead of a couch or house rather than out. Every time you talk to a different person, you have to choose exactly the right words and the right pronunciations. Almost every word is different and they fit together in patterns or levels depending on who you are talking to. Because I am well educated and come from a rich family, I am expected to use 5 different levels of language. So this is in Javanese language. So Javanese social status is indicated not just in choice of linguistic forms, but also in the particular combination of forms which each group customarily uses. So the varieties of stylistic levels that together make up the group's distinctive dialect. So here is the 6 distinguishable stylistic level. Okay, for example, the word you. Okay, it is pronounced as okay, we start from the stylistic level 1. Kowe, Pajenengan, Sampejan, Sampejan, and Sampejan, and the top one is Pajenengan. Same goes to the word now, and that is according to the stylistic level. 1 indicates lower class, lower social class, and 3A and 3 refers to the upper social class.
Okay.
Social
Right.
class dialects, there are 3 distinct Javanese social groups and 3, yes.
Okay. Continue.
Okay, continue. So there are 3 distinct Javanese social groups and 3 associated dialects. So dialect of the lower status group, the peasants and uneducated townspeople, they are expected to acquire.
The peasants. The peasants. The peasants
peasants.
are those the lower level of society. The peasants.
The peasants. Peasants, okay, they are expected to master 3 stylistic levels, which are 1, 1A, and also 2. So, okay, dialect of urbanized people with some education, they are expected to master 5 stylistic levels, which are 1, 1A, 2, 3, and 3A. And dialect of the highly educated higher status group, the highest status group, okay, they are expected to master 5 stylistic levels, quite different from the previous one, okay, which 1, 1A, 1B, 3, and 3A. They don't have to master the second level. Okay.
Okay.
So in conclusion, in Javanese, a particular social dialect can be defined as a particular combination of styles or level, each of which has its distinctive patterns of vocabulary, grammar, and pronunciation. Though there are many forms which are shared by different stylistic levels, there are some words or grammar or pronunciation that quite similar.
Wait. You go back to the previous slide. Previous slide. Okay, this one is not social class. This is this one. The last one. Before conclusion. This one is not social class dialect. It's actually the caste dialect. This is the levels of the caste dialect in Javanese. Social class dialect is different, not this one. Social class dialect is another subtopic. If you look at your text, page 151, social class dialect is another subtopic. This is actually the
Okay, sorry.
social groups. Please correct it.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay, sorry. Okay. Okay, next. Okay, so now, okay, we move on to social class dialect. Okay, we will look in terms of vocabulary, pronunciation, and also grammatical patterns. So, social class refer to the term for differences between people which are associated with differences in social prestige, wealth, and also education. So, and status refers to the difference or respect people give someone or they don't give to someone. Okay, and these class divisions are based on status differences. So, class refers to group of people who share similarities in economy and also social status. So status differences are in relation to family background, wealth, and also education.
Yes.
Next. Okay. Social dialect research in many different countries has revealed there is a consistent relationship between social class and also language patterns. So that's why people from different social classes speak differently. The most obvious differences is in vocabulary. Okay. So this is example 10. Okay, Uncle Matthew. Okay, I hope poor Fanny's school, okay, the word school is pronounced in Witherington, okay, is doing her all the good you think it is. Certainly, she picks up some hurtful expressions there. Auntie Emily is up a good deal of education. Okay, continue. Okay. So in the 1950s in England, okay, many pairs of words were identified which it was claimed distinguish the speech of upper class English people referred to you speakers from the rest. The rest refers to the non-you speakers, non-upper class English people. So, for example, these are some of the words. Okay, for example, upper speakers use sitting room instead of lounge, okay, and lavatory instead of toilet, bag instead of handbag, sofa
Okay.
of settee or couch instead of also not paper. So they are very sensitive with this to different vocab. Okay, this vocab differences exist
Okay.
at all those which distinguish a categorical basis. These vocabs are not quite so simple since the U terms spread beyond the boundaries of the U group. So new terms are introduced. So refer to previous table. So something like this.
Okay.
So it is introduced since the U terms only spread between upper groups. So however, there is no but even if they exist, clues are superficial. The complexity and the class in places like Britain and even Europe are not insurmountable as in caste-based societies because people still can move up or down the social ladder, not like caste system. It's very difficult and almost impossible for you to move up. Okay.
It's
And
very,
next we look at pronunciation. Yes.
Okay, continue.
Moving on. Okay, moving on.
Hmm.
Okay, we look at example 11. Only uneducated people drop their H. Okay, Stephen, let's hear you say, have you heard about Hilda's new house that her husband left her? It cost her a heck of a lot to fix up. If you don't drop a single H in that sentence, it will sound like one of Monty Python's upper class tweets. Like you might sound like posh. Okay. Okay, next. So the speech of different social groups is not distinguished by frequency, is distinguished by frequency which they use particular features rather than the completely different forms. They look at the frequency, okay, not the different forms. Okay, this is example 12. Okay, Marjorie Lee lived in what she described as a new large hideous at Warden. Sorry. At Warden Mansion. Her father was a lawyer. Her mother had been one of the first women students at Canterbury College, part of the University of New Zealand. Marjorie went to Miss Barbara's private school until her early teens when she was provided with a governess. George Davis lived with 4 members of his family in a small house. His mother was a solo parent whose only steady income came from keeping grandmother. As George said, we weren't hard up. We were absolutely poverty stricken. Illustrating this, he recounted that they sometimes took palings off the fence for firewood, and you could pretty well tell the state of the family finance by whether grandma's inlaid brooch was in the pawn shop or not. So example 11 and example 12 actually are recordings that were used to analyze the differences between speakers in terms of number of H they drop in words. So majorly, they found that they did not omit a single H, okay? Majorly did not omit a single H, but George Davis, this person dropped 83% of the H which occurred in his interview. So this speech variable is actually called H dropping. Okay, and speaker social background were clearly signaled by the different proportion of this feature of their speech. Okay.
Yeah.
So this is the figure H dropping in Norwich and West Yorkshire social group. So as you can see, the pattern is the same. The lower the status of the class, social class. Okay, the more they drop H. Okay. So on. So 5. Okay, the average score of socially differentiated. Yes.
Just now you are talking about this figure on page. What page is this? What page?
154. 154.
Okay, 154. Okay, right. Okay.
Okay.
Okay, continue.
Okay, so the average scores of socially differentiated groups generally follow exactly this kind of pattern for any linguistic variable where they are clearly identifiable standard and vernacular variants. Okay, 5 different social groups in 2 different places in England, West Yorkshire and also Norwich. So higher social group drops the least number of H either in West Yorkshire or Norwich, and the lowest group omits the most. Okay, same for West Yorkshire and also Norwich. So we need to remember that in each social group you will have individual social variable. Okay, not in each social group, everyone speak the same. So for example, in West Yorkshire study, okay, one person who belongs socially in the middle group, okay, 3, drop his or her H, although he doesn't belong to the working class. So
Yeah.
again, we look at the frequency instead of the completely, okay? Okay, now we look at example 14. Okay, which author are you staying at Old Chap? So H dropping into 6.
What page is this? Example 14, page 156.
5, 6.
Okay.
1, 5,
Okay.
6. Okay.
All right, all right.
So H dropping into 20th, we are getting to the end. Okay. So in example 11, only uneducated people drop their H. Evidence is as evidence of laziness or slovenly speech. But into 20th century, top social classes in England drop the H at the beginning of words. Initial and also initial H has recently appeared in the speech of young Londoners who belong to the ethnic minority groups. So in New York City, however, in New York City, all the white residents of Lower East Side still use this non-rhotic pronunciation to assert their status as authentic New Yorkers. Okay. So we move on to pronunciation. In versus ing.
Wait.
So
Can
this
you
is
wait? Can you go to page 156, figure 6.5? If you look at the figure, okay, this is Reading and New York. Where is Reading? Reading is in where? England. Reading is in UK. England. New York is in okay. If you look at the figure 6.5, is the post vocalic R. Okay, people from New York, okay, if they are from the lower class, which is number 1, okay. If they are from the wait.
Doctor.
Yeah.
Doctor, actually I have the slide for that post vocalic R pronunciation.
Are you going to explain that afterwards?
Yes. I have
Okay,
that
okay.
on our slides. Okay. So now we look at the pronunciation in versus in. Okay, so this is the figure 6.4. Percentage of vernacular in pronunciation for 4 social groups in speech communities in Britain, USA, and also Australia. So 1 refers to upper class, okay, and 4 refers to working class. So this the social group in Norwich, West Yorkshire, New York, and also Brisbane. So this is one of the linguistic features that William Labov has studied. Okay, Labov concluded that there is a relationship between the social class and the percentage of standard versus vernacular use. So the pronunciation of ing versus in at the end of words like swimming or sleeping distinguishes between social groups. So the people of the lower social group will pronounce in instead of ing. Okay, they will like swimming, sleeping, not sleeping or swimming. Okay, now we move on to pronunciation. Post vocalic R. Okay, so this is the example. In New York City, 1964, a man was observed in 3 different department stores asking one store worker after another, where are the women's shoes? The man appeared not only to have a short memory, since he repeated his question to a shop assistant in each aisle on several aisle on several different floors. He also appeared to be slightly deaf, since he asked each person to repeat their answer to him. After receiving the answer, he would scurry away and scribble something in his notebook. Oddest of all, when he finally made it to the fourth floor, where the women's shoes were, he showed absolutely no interest in them whatsoever, but wandered around the floor asking, "Excuse me, what floor is this?" When questioned by a puzzle store detective, he said he was a sociolinguist. So, if I'm not mistaken, it's also a study done by William Labor. Okay, so this is the figure 6.5, the one that Madam said earlier, talked about earlier. Okay, it is a post-vocalic R in reading and also New York social group. Okay. Okay, there are two possible variants. Okay, for post-vocalic R, either it's present and pronounced, or it is absent at all. Okay. So in some regions, Ireland and Scotland in UK and New York and Boston in USA, the R is part of the standard prestige dialect. In such area, the higher person social group, the more R he or she keep. In New York, Labor asked different shop assistants where the answer of each was fourth floor. He realized that the more prestigious the shop was, the more people use post-vocalic R. Same. Okay. However, in other places like reading in England, the more prestigious you are, the fewer you pronounce R. Okay, just like the figure just now. Okay, as you can see, in reading, okay, 0 percentage of post-vocalic R. Okay, but in New York, there are 32% of people pronounce post-vocalic R, and it contrasts between reading and also New York. Okay, and then we move on to pronunciation in pronouncing vowels.
Wait. Okay, so go back to the go back to figure 6.4 on page 154.
Yes.
So, this is the opposite from UK and US. Okay, people in UK, they don't use the R sound. If they are from the upper class in UK, they don't use the R sound, but people in New York from the upper class, they will use the R sound. So they will say floor, you know. But in UK, if you are from the upper class, you say floor. You do not say the R sound. If you are from the lower class in UK, you will use the R sound. So the upper class pronunciation from the upper class pronunciation of the R sound in UK and US is the opposite. Do you understand? The opposite in the level of their class. Do you understand or not? The upper class people in UK, they don't pronounce R, but people in US, New Yorker, they pronounce the R from the upper class. You get what I mean? Okay, right? Continue.
Okay, now, so example 15. Sir, what is happening to the humble letter I in New Zealandese? Okay. Him become. I overheard a young girl telling her friend on the phone that she had been to a doctor and had to take 6 different pills a day. After 4 repetitions, she had to spell it to be understood. Okay, so Labov developed in this study, Labov developed a method which involved giving a score to different pronunciations according to how close they were to the prestige pronunciation or standard in the community, because it's hard to study the different pronunciation of vowels. So that's why Labov developed this method. So in New Zealand, similar. Okay. So in New Zealand, similar scoring system was used in surveying around 140 people living in the South Island to measure the pronunciation of diphthong in words like boat, bite, and bulk. So the result, okay, higher social grouping scored high percentage closer to the standard pronunciation RP, this is pronunciation, and lower social grouping scored less far to standard pronunciation RP. So many New Zealanders consider RP an inappropriate standard accent for New Zealand, but in the late 20th century, it was still an influential prestige norm. Okay,
Okay.
so
Okay.
move on to the next example, example 16. Okay,
Okay.
Charmier. Jean Charmier is a young Parisian who works as a laborer on a construction site. His speech is quite different in many ways from the speech of the news announcers on national televisions. One difference involves his pronunciation of the S in words like castle, break, and pass not. He says something which sounds more like castle for castle, and instead of Genesise pass for I don't know. He omits the name as the most people now do in colloquial French and pronounce the phrase, yes, colloquial French, and pronounce the phrase as something which sounds like school. Okay. So differences in pronouncing vowel can be found in other languages too, and in communities which can be divided into different social groups. Okay, the same like previous variables like in versus ing, r, and also h dropping. Okay, the pronunciation of the first vowel in words like castle or pass varies from one social group to another. Some people would pronounce them as castle and also. So this is the table percentage I deletion into social classes in Montreal French. So for example, il pleut, it is raining. So professional will delete I, the pronunciation I, okay, and working class has higher percentage than professional. Okay, they delete I the most. Okay. Next, okay, I deletion varies according to two different varies. I deletion varies according to two different social groupings, the professional and also the working class. So the working class got high deletion percentage of I rather than the professional one. So I deletion is also influenced by two more things, okay, the grammatical status and also surrounding sounds. So grammatical status, okay, I almost disappears in impersonal okay, like in blue. Okay, it is raining. Okay, working class showed a higher percentage of deletion than the professional class. Okay, and the next thing, the next one, surrounding sounds. Okay, I tends to be deleted when preceding a consonant rather than a vowel. Okay. Therefore, in this case, we can see that the linguistic and social factors affect the pronunciation. Okay. So now we look at grammatical patterns. The last one. Okay. Rina is 8 years old and she is telling a game. And then these little flies went to go and they made a house by themselves. And this big fly was playing his guitar. He played and played. Then the little flies was making the house, and then the flies this leaf up all together. So children from lower class families tend to use more vernacular verb forms rather than the standard one, okay, the standard English. So higher social groups use more standard grammatical forms and few, since I said few grammatical variations, okay, limited grammatical variation is acceptable. So they use few of non-standard vernacular forms. So there is a clear pattern to the relationship between grammatical speech forms and social groups who use them. So there is a clear pattern to the relationship between grammatical speech form and also social groups who use them. So next. Okay, this is the example. Okay, form. Okay, for past tense verb forms. Okay, upper class people like will likely to say, I finished that book yesterday. But working class will likely to say, I finished that book yesterday. The same to present tense verb forms. Rose walks to school every day instead of Rose walk to school every day. And also negative form. Nobody wants any chips. Nobody don't want no chips. And the usage of ain't. Okay, Jim isn't stupid. Jim ain't stupid. Okay. So the third person singular form of the present tense regular verb. Okay, there is a sharp distinction, sharp stratification between middle class groups and the lower class group. We can clearly see that. Okay, and people often more aware of social stigma in relation to vernacular grammatical forms, and this is reflected in lower incidence of vernacular forms among middle class speakers in particular. So this pattern also found both in a variety of US English spoken in Detroit and in a variety of British English spoken in Norwich. So standard English allows only one negative in each clause. Vernacular dialects can have two or more. This is called multiple negation. In some dialects, every possible form which can be negated is negated. So frequently found in lower class speech. For example, okay, sentence that comes from an adolescent gang member in New York. It ain't no can't get in no cook. That the meaning, okay, the translation, okay, into standard English, there isn't any cat that can get into any coop, or more simply, no cat can get into any coop. Okay, that's one example. Okay, another example, the sentence that comes from an adolescent in Detroit. So we ain't had no trouble about none of us pulling out no knife. So we had no trouble in pulling out knife. So that's the meaning. So multiple negation is very salient vernacular form, unlike the use of and of a word. So in standard pronunciation, okay, it is avoided while lower class speakers use it more comfortably. So this shows that when this one person keep using multiple negation, we already know that he comes from low class society. Low class people. Okay, and in some varieties of English, people omit auxiliary verb have more often before got than before other verbs. For example, instead of have got to go, they say you got to go. But in other verb, for example, you done that, you have done that. They say you have done that instead of you done that. So therefore, social dialectologists must take into account linguistic feature occurs. So in conclusion, we can say that the way we speak is a good indicator of our social background, and many speech features which can be used as clues. So not all variation is stable over time. However, in fact, variation often used as an
Hold on, doctor.
hold on. Okay. So variation often used as an indicator of language change in progress. So for example, patterns of H dropping and in versus in pronunciation clearly divide the middle class groups from the lower class group in Norwich. But there's a sharp rise in number of vernacular forms between middle class and low class group, both in Detroit and in Norwich. Same pattern has been observed in many other communities. This pattern has been labeled as sharp stratification. And social dialect surveys have demonstrated that stable variations tend to divide English-speaking communities sharply between middle class and also lower working class. That's it for our presentation, our topic.
Okay. Wait. I just want to confirm. The first one just now is Nur Yasmin, is it? Nur Yasmin? Your name.
Hanin.
Hanim. Or the first one is Hanim. The second one is
Yasmin.
the first presenter just now is
Hanin.
Hanim.
Hanin. Hanin Radia.
Nurhanin, sekejap. Hanin. Hanin, Hanin.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, that is the first answer.
Yes.
Okay, the second presenter, just now Yasmin, is it?
Yes, me.
Yasmin Syuhada. Okay. Okay, for this chapter, the first part of the chapter shows the differences between dialects of people from different regions where they are staying, and also from the from the regions, they are international, means different countries, and also intra-national, within the country, and also near the border,
The country.
dialect change.
Yes.
And there is also social variation. Social variation depends on your educational level. Okay, educational level, and also
Yes.
they call socio-economy factor. Okay, do you understand this chapter? Any question?
Yes.
Any question?
You have
Anybody want to
question?
ask anything? Everyone understood? Okay. Want to confirm? Can I confirm just now? The presenters for just now, the first one is tadi yang the first chapter. The first one is Hidayati.
Nur
Ke?
Amira. Nur Amira.
Nur Amira Cik Hashim.
Yeah. Yes, betul.
That's the first one kan? The second one?
Nur Hidayati.
Nur Hidayati. Kejap. Okay, betul lah. I tulis, I takut I silap. Alright. If there's no questions, do you have questions for your audience? You have questions, you post in the WhatsApp group. Or you have, are you
We have
prepared?
Kahoot.
Huh?
Oh,
Apa dia?
yes, we have prepared Kahoot. People
Okay.
Kahoot. I think people can do it.
You can change it to
Question. Can you put the question share in the WhatsApp group, because Kahoot difficult to play. Can you play online lagi?
Yeah. Yes.
Or what you can do, you put all the questions in the form of, you put all the questions like the normal question and ask everybody to answer like that. Not in Kahoot style, because you cannot play Kahoot like this. Okay? I don't think so. Okay, you understand? Okay, just now your friends for previous chapter, for chapter 5, please answer the question and post in the group. Chapter 5, answer the question and post in the group. And then for chapter 6, you post the question and everyone also answer the question in the WhatsApp group. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. All right. So we'll see you.
when
Wait. I have a question.
Okay.
Yes.
So for the chapter 5, the ones that we need to answer is the one that Amira and Hidayati posted in the group, right? In the file, the PDF.
In PDF file. You want it in Word?
Okay. And then for the PDF in Word. Okay, the one that Hidayati and Amira prepared, right?
Yes.
Chapter, and then we will answer. We will have WhatsApp.